Hello, I am the Story Girl, and welcome to the story of the magic fish. This is the story of a fisherman who went down to the lake every single day to cast in his fishing line and reel in as many fish as he could, but he hadn't caught a single fish all week. And so, this particular day, when he went down to the lake, he was in poor spirits. He shoved out his boat and he got in and he rowed out to the center of the lake, cast in, and sat there. Which is normal for fishing. And all of a sudden there was a tug on his line. He pulled back, but the tug was hard. He pulled and he pulled and he reeled and he reeled and he pulled and he pulled and he reeled until he had brought up the most enormous fish he had ever seen. An enormous fish. And he thought, I could sell this in market for not more than what I usually get. And he was just about to cut the fish's throat when the fish cried out, "Please don't kill me!" Yes, the fish. And the fish cried out, "I am a magic fish. I am a prince among fishes. You cannot kill me." And the fisherman thought, well, I very well can kill you because you're completely in my power. "No, please," said the fish. "I am a magic fish, and I can grant you whatever you wish if you will please release me into the water." Well, the fisherman, for all that he made a living off of killing poor innocent fish, was a tender-hearted soul, and he'd never met a talking fish before, so he thought he may as well preserve this one's life. So he said, "No, I don't need a wish. I don't need anything, but I'll let you go." So he dropped the fish back into the water, and the fish swam up to the surface and poked its head out and said, "If you ever feel like you need a wish, I'll be here. All you have to do is call out, 'Prince of Fish, I want a wish,' and I will come to you and grant you whatever you desire." "Well, thank you kindly," said the fisherman, and he rowed back to shore and put his fishing pole over his shoulder and walked home. Home to his wife. He went home to his wife, and his wife said, "No fish again?" And he said, "Well, I did catch one fish." He told her the story of this remarkable fish that he caught that could talk, and offered to give him a wish. "The fish could talk?" said his wife. "Yes, and he offered to give me a wish. Of course, I said we don't need anything." "What do you mean we don't need anything?" said his wife. "Well, we live fairly comfortably." "Comfortably? We live in a pigsty!" You may be thinking that this is an exaggeration, but the truth of the matter was, the fisherman and his wife literally lived in a pigsty, in a little shack that was originally built for pigs. Well, the fisherman said, "Oh, it's a comfortable enough pigsty." No, his wife said. "Tomorrow morning, first thing, you are going to go back to that magic fish, and you are going to make a wish. You are going to wish for a nice little cottage with a picket fence and a yard and a handful of chickens. You're going to do it. Listen. What are you going to say?" "I'm going to wish for a nice little cottage with a picket fence and a handful of, what was it? Chickens! A handful of chickens!" Oh yes, a handful of chickens. So the next morning the fisherman woke up and went to the lake and called out, "Prince of Fish, I want a wish." And he waited, and he saw some bubbles on the surface of the lake, and the fish popped its head out of the surface of the lake and said, "That didn't take very long. What can I do for you?" And the fisherman said, "Well, I thought that my wife and I lived very comfortably in our little house, which literally is a pigsty, but my wife decided that we need a larger house. I wish, if it's no trouble, for a cottage with a fence and a handful of chickens. A handful of chickens." "Very well," said the fish. "Walk back home and you will find that your wish has been granted." Thank you. "Thank you kindly," said the fisherman, and he walked back to his pigsty and saw the pigsty was gone, and in its place was a nice frame house with a picket fence and a handful of chickens in the yard, and there was his wife rocking away in a very nice rocker on the porch, and he called out to her and said, "What a nice little house!" And she said, "Yes, it is a fine house at that." And they lived very happily for about a week. After a week, the wife said, "Husband, do you remember that magic fish that you caught?" "Yes, the magic fish that I caught. And he made us this house." "Yes, he was very kind to do that." "Yes, well, you see, I was thinking that this house could do with some improvements." "Improvements? It's a very nice little house." Yes, a very nice little house. But I'd like a bit of a larger house. Perhaps even a castle." "You go back to that fish tomorrow morning and you say, 'Fish, I wish for a castle.'" "Well, when you wish for a castle, you may as well wish to become queen." Yes, wish for that too," said the wife. And so the next morning, the husband, being a very obedient husband, woke up and went to the lake and called out, "Prince of Fish, I want a wish." And the fish swam up and poked its head out and said, "Oh, well, that was not as long as I thought it would be, but what can I do for you?" "Well, the house is so nice. Thank you so much. It's such a beautiful little cottage. I'm quite content there. But my wife, she wants a little bit more room to spread out. I wish that the house be changed for a castle and that my wife become the queen." "Your wife wants to become the queen?" "Yes, my wife wants to become the queen." "Very well. Walk back to your house and you will find that your wish has been granted." "Thank you kindly," said the fisherman, and he walked back to the cottage, but there was no cottage, and in the place of the cottage there was a grand castle with a wall around it and many beautiful towers. And he walked in and he saw his wife sitting on a very high throne with a crown of royalty upon her head and holding a scepter in her hand. And he said, "Wife, this is a very fine castle you have here." "Yes, it is," said she, with her very proudest voice, "and all of the peasants that live round about have been coming up for the last hour to bow before my feet and give me gifts as the ruler of this land." "Oh, well, you must be very happy indeed," said the fisherman. "Yes," said she, and she was very happy for about 2 days. After the 2 days, the queen turned to her husband and said, "Husband, do you remember that fish that you caught?" "Yes, the magic fish that I caught and released back in the..." "Yes, the magic fish. And it built for us that nice little cottage." "Yes, I remember the nice little cottage. And this beautiful castle." "Yes, it's a very fine castle, a little bit drafty in some rooms, but I like it quite a lot." "I was thinking, this castle is a bit drab for my tastes. I would like something a little bit more." "You would like something?" "Yes, I would like to become an empress, queen over many kingdoms." "You go back to that magic fish in the morning and you ask him for that." Well, the fisherman, being a very obedient husband, went back to the lake and called out, "Prince of Fish, I want a wish." And he saw the bubbles on the surface of the lake, and this fish swam up and poked his head up and said, "What can I do for you?" "Well, you've done so much for me," said the fisherman, "and I am astounded by the magic, the castle, the riches. But my wife, she has higher tastes than I do. She would like to become an empress. I wish for my wife to be an empress." "Very well," said the fish. "Walk back to the castle, and you will find that your wish has been granted." Well, the fisherman walked back to the castle, but the castle was gone, and in its place was a larger castle made completely out of gold and silver. And in the great hall he found a whole line of kings from many different parts of the world with treasures, the most priceless treasures of their kingdom, setting them before the feet of a very fine regal woman that sat on a very high throne wearing lavish clothing. He looked closer and saw that this empress was his wife. Wife, you will call me Empress. Husband, Empress, he said. This is a very large place here. Yes, it is quite to my liking, much better than that drafty old hovel of a castle we had before. Well, Empress, you must be very, very happy. Yes, I am. And she was. For about a day. The next day, the Empress was sweeping through the hallways when she saw her fisherman husband and said, Husband, this castle is much too small and drab for my liking. It's much too small and... Yes! I am Empress over just a few kings, but there is still someone higher than me. Higher than you? Yes! You must go back to that fish and wish that I will become a pope. A pope. Yes! The highest position in all of the land. All of the emperors and all of the kings will bow before my regal holy presence. Wife, you will call me Empress. Empress, that is a very high position. You will go back. Yes. I will go back. And you will tell them. Yes, I know what to tell the fish. I know what to tell the fish. So the next morning, the fisherman, being a very obedient husband, went back to the lake and called out, Prince of Fish, my wife, I want a wish. And the fish popped its head back out of the water and said, what does she want now? Fish, she wants to become a pope. Your wife wants to become the pope. Yes. Very well. Go back to home and you will find that her wish has been granted. So the fisherman walked back home and saw that in place of the enormous castle was now an entire city made out of gold and platinum, made out of diamonds that shimmered in the sun. And he walked through the hallways and found that they were filled with emperors and filled with kings and many priests and holy people. And on the tallest throne he'd ever seen in his whole life, he saw a fierce woman with holy robes on, standing in court with all of the people from all of the world. And he saw that it was his wife, the Pope. And he said, Wife, you will call me Her Holy Eminence. Your Holy Eminence! Your Holy Eminence. Surely you are happy now. Yes, I am happy now, said the Pope. And she was happy for about an hour. An hour later, the fisherman received a summons from Her Holy Eminence, the Pope, and he went into the receiving room and she said, Husband! There is one person still higher than myself. No, don't say it. Yes! You will go back to the fish and please, no. Yes, you will go back to the fish and you will make another wish. Well, the fisherman, being a very obedient husband, the next morning walked back to the lake and called out, Prince of Fish! And the fish's head popped out of the water and said, Do you want a wish? Yes. My wife. Yes, your wife. My wife wishes that my wife wishes to be made a goddess. Laughed the fish. Your wife wants to be made a goddess. Yes. Go back to your home, and you will find that her wish has been granted. So the fisherman walked back home, walked back to the enormous city of diamonds, and saw that it was all gone. And all he saw was a little pigsty. And in the yard of the pigsty was his wife, shrieking and bellowing and raging and stamping her feet. And they lived comfortably in the pigsty forever after. The end. I am a story girl. Thank you for joining the story today. The other day, somebody asked me if these are stories that I have made up myself. They are not. None of the stories I've told so far are stories I've made up myself, but stories that I have read in lots of books. So, just like last week we had a story about a ridiculous husband. This was a story about a ridiculous wife. Do you know anybody in your life who you think is a little bit ridiculous that you'd like to tell a story about? Look around. See what you can see. And if you feel like it, write a story. And leave me a comment of what story you made up about people in your life who are a little bit ridiculous. Thank you for joining the story. Go ahead and, if you like this story, subscribe to my channel. Give me a thumbs up, like it. I love telling stories, and I would love for as many people as possible to enjoy the stories that I love. I'll see you next time.